A reason to buy jewelry? You don't need one. Gift yourself the modern classic piece you've always had your eye on at BlueNile.com. Blue Nile's collection of high-quality diamond jewelry is ready to complement your every look. Show off your elegant taste with a pair of diamond studs, or serve up brilliant style in a traditional tennis bracelet, shipped right to your door. Reward yourself with a piece you've always wanted at BlueNile.com. That's BlueNile.com.
We may live over 5,000 miles from Lincoln Financial Field, but what we lack in proximity, we make up for in film study. And each and every week, we'll be bringing you in-depth film breakdowns from across the pond and the Sooner State. Welcome to On the Shane page. I am your host, Shane Haff, and you can give me a follow on Twitter at ShaneHaffNFL. And I am joined by BGN's own film guru, Jonny Page. Give him a follow at JohnnyPage9. Jonny, how are you doing this evening?
I mean, I guess I'm well. It's a very strange time in my life. I may cut off the show in 10 seconds because baby is imminent. As we were starting to record, I'm like, right, we've got to be very, very quick today because if you're not over on Patreon, we're going to do a Patreon show straight after this. So a little bit of a shorter pod today. But if you want more, you can just go and join Patreon now and then jump straight into the live mailbag straight after as well. But then as we jump on to record, if anyone can see, my new room lights decided to make me look like, I don't know, it's like some Jesus little like sign appearing above me there. It's very strange. So I'm now just like getting as close as I can to the camera to prevent this annoying light, which no one would care about except me.
Maybe we should make that like a nonverbal cue that you've got something to say as you lean back and the light appears above your head. It's like
no, don't say that now because now I'll actually think that I'm going to do that and you'll just stop talking and I'll be like, what? So let's not actually do that. But yeah, I've been busy with the Eagles. I literally text BLG saying, right, I'm done with free agency. I'm taking a few weeks off. Baby's coming. Nothing else. Basically wrote about every single one. And then I think it was about 9 o'clock UK time. Checked my phone and Azeez Ojulari signed. And I was like, no, let's do it now. So I just stayed up a little bit later. Did Ojulari, tweeted clips like immediately, probably the fastest I've ever tweeted clips in my life. And then got something up against him. And I'm hoping the Eagles don't sign anyone now. So, because I'm not going to write about them for a while. So it might be the last time you hear from me for a couple of weeks or so, but you never know. But yeah, we're going to, I guess, just go through Eagles free agency today in lightning round time. But I've also got some clips I'll talk about. There are some players I want to talk about more than others. So yes, how are you doing, Shane? Rather than
I'm doing good
for the first 5 minutes.
Yeah, I'm doing good. It's been a crazy week. We got some ridiculous wind in Oklahoma. We had over the weekend, we had 55 mile per hour sustained wind with gusts up to 80. And so it blew siding off of the house. So I had to do all kinds of repairs for that. It's been a little bit crazy. I actually posted that in the Discord and I converted it to kilometers per hour for the Brits in the Discord and found out that you guys use miles per hour, which is really weird to me. I don't know. Do you even have a concept of how far miles are?
Oh, yeah.
Use miles per hour when you're using kilometers for everything?
We sort of use both. So it's a bit strange. We sort of use both miles and kilometers. It's a bit strange. In driving wise, we use miles per hour. So if there's a road, it will be miles per hour. But we also talk about kilometers quite a lot as well. So when I run, I will try and run a 5K or a 10K. It's very strange. We basically use both. We haven't decided what one we like the most.
In giving directions to someone, you would be drive 45 miles per hour for 12 kilometers and then
you joke, but sometimes we might. Yeah, sometimes we genuinely might. I could definitely see myself saying that. So yeah, we use a little bit of both. So we understand kilometers an hour and we understand miles per hour. Okay. So there you go.
That's insane to me. We don't understand kilometers at all. So that's great. Oh, this is totally I meant to actually mention this at the start of the mailbag instead of the free agent preview. This is much more of a mailbag topic. But regardless, my life's been a little chaotic the last few days, but I'm ready to dive in and talk some free agency here. And so we're going to quickly hit on I think it's like 8 free agents that the Eagles have signed since we last spoke. And Johnny's got film threads on them on Twitter. He's got some written articles on Bleeding Green Nation. And we've always said this show is a bit of a companion to those film threads and written work. But let's dive in with what I think you agree, based on what I've seen you say, is the most significant signing. And that is the Eagles signing edge rusher Azeez Ojulari to a 1-year, $4 million deal. And so Azeez Ojulari is only 24 years old. He has 95th percentile arm length and overall had an 8.26 relative athletic score when he came out in the draft. He has 22 sacks in the last 4 years, in which time he's played 46 games. He started 30 of those games. He had 6 sacks last season. He officially made one of my predictions not be true, because I said I didn't think the Eagles would sign anyone that would cancel a comp pick. And this would cancel out that 6th round projected comp pick for Isaiah Rodgers. But I love this signing. I think that $4 million is a steal. I've thought Azeez is a good player ever since he came out in the draft. I thought he was going to be a good player, and he's struggled with some injury things and staying on the field. But at the end of the day, Johnny, the last Giants player the Eagles signed in the offseason turned out pretty good. So are we getting the Azeez Ojulari Defensive Player of the Year campaign this year?
Wow, that I thought I liked Azeez Ojulari until you said that. I'll be honest. So, yeah, for someone who covers the NFL, I'm just going to be fully transparent with a lot of people. I know very little about players once they get to the NFL. Like, I watch the Eagles and I watch all of the Eagles' opponents. So I know a lot about the NFC East. I know a lot about like Chiefs and 49ers every year because we're always competing against them. But there are certain players I just don't really watch a lot of. And for some reason, Ojulari just sort of went past me. I don't know why, because he's played well against the Eagles. He's had a few sacks against the Eagles, actually, that came up in the film. But I didn't really have an opinion on him. And then I watched him, and NFL Pro is unbelievable for this. So I binged him very quickly. I watched all of his sacks. I watched the majority of his pressures for the last 3 years. I watched about 100 run defense snaps. I watched all of his snaps in coverage the past 2 years. I even watched all of his run snaps when the Giants gave up 10 plus yards and he was on the field. And I was desperately trying to see, like, why has he got 1 year, $4 million? What's the big knock? And I basically decided, Shane, there isn't a big knock. It's a health thing. I'm guessing he got offered more by other teams. And I'm guessing he thought, you know what? I can have a really big year with the Eagles. I'm going to bet on myself. And I'm going to make myself a lot of money this year when the season ends. That's the only thing I can think of, because the film is good. Like, granted, the best availability is durability, or whatever they say. Whatever that phrase is, which I've just put.
Availability.
Yes. No, it's not that, is it? What's the phrase? The best ability is availability. The best ability is availability. There we go. I butchered it.
Durability would work, though.
It works similar. But long story short, I can't see another reason why, because he is a good player. Like, he screams great year, signs a massive contract with another team in the end of the season. Like, it seems very obvious to me. So I'll give you a brief scouting report of someone who watched a lot of his play. And I put just a few clips, Shane, into the private chat, just so I can show you a couple of things. Someone basically commented something immediately, just saying basically what you could have summed up your whole article by saying arm length. And like, yeah, the guy's got massive arms and it stands out. His block shedding is really good. I would not say he's explosive. I would not say he's bendy. In fact, you'll see some of the clips where he struggles to turn the corner, but he just disengages consistently well. And all the clips he wins, just look at his arms and how far away he keeps offensive linemen. It's really impressive. So if you start with the first one, Shane, and I won't show too many clips of every player, but this is the one I'm most excited about. He's lined up here on the left side of the screen. And I think this is the one that's like a twist. This is the stunt. But even so, you can just see, like, when you just slow it down and watch his arms, watch his left hand in particular, like, he gets right up into the left tackle's chest. And that arm length and is basically how he wins on 90% of his pressure. Like, it's really, really obvious watching him. You can see how far away the offensive tackle is from him. I wouldn't say I saw a lot of snaps where I was like, wow, he flies off the ball. Wow, he can bend the edge really well. But when you've got a unique talent like that, against average offensive linemen, against offensive linemen that maybe lunge a little bit, you're going to have a lot of success. And I think he will be able to add pass rush value. So that was one play that summarized it, Shane. If you go through the next few a little bit quicker, the next one's a really nice one, the second one, because it shows a similar thing. I think this is the Steelers one. This is the same. Watch his left arm. that is brilliant. He's holding the offensive tackle literally at arm's length. And if you pause it at one point, you can see the offensive lineman is actually like leaning forward because he's lunging, because he basically can't get hands on him. And that's the angle that I love. The other thing I notice about him is he's maybe not someone who gets consistent pressures, but he's someone who gets sacks. So what is it, 22 sacks and 42 starts or something ludicrously high for a young guy? He's one of those guys that when he gets pressures, his closing speed is really good, and his pressures are often converted to sacks. And I compared him in my article to Hassan Reddick in that sense. Reddick was never a consistent sack guy. Sorry, a consistent pressure guy, but he was a consistent sack guy. This is probably my favorite example when I say he can't bend the edge like a true flexible first-round pick would. When we talk about turning the corner, like he's way too far upfield, but he's got ridiculously long arms and a ridiculously ridiculously good closing speed. So he can actually sack the quarterback. And when you watch, I think this is Darnold or whoever it is for the Vikings here, is it Cousins actually? So I'll be back a few years. Cousins doesn't take that deep of a drop. He's not dropping backwards. He's not like drifting backwards. It's actually a pretty routine drop from the shotgun. And even though he takes this ridiculously wide angle, he still managed to force a fumble on a 3-step drop, which I think is pretty remarkable and sums up what I mean by length, block shedding. But if you expect like a bend and rip, like, you know what I mean, the cliche, the top 5 edge rusher in the draft, you can bend and turn the corner. That's much more of a slow bend. He ends up taking too many unnecessary steps, but he's so long and he's so quick over a couple of yards that he can make it work. And then the other thing is, I got one more clip for him. It's just, I try to find flaws in his run defense. It's fine. He's not a superb early down run defender, but he's good enough. He can set the edge. He's not a splash player, but he can also drop into coverage. Like, if you look at this rep here, he looks pretty natural in space. And apparently his rookie year, I didn't watch his rookie year in space. I watched his last 2 years. He was very comfortable in his rookie season dropping into coverage. And apparently he was also very comfortable doing it in college. And what do we know Fangio needs? You just need to be good enough. Josh Sweat could do it. Bryce Huff. And these guys are not good at it. But as long as you're just good enough to do it, you're not going to be asked to man up tight ends one-on-one. You're not going to be asked to deal with running backs that often one-on-one. You just need to be able to disguise blitzes by just having enough to drop back occasionally. So I'll be honest, I would have given up more than 1 year, $4 million. I think he's worth way more than 1 year, $4 million. I think it's pretty incredible what Josh Sweat's contract got in comparison. He's a young guy, former second-round pick, obviously wants to get paid, thinks if he comes here, has a fantastic year, he could get an absolutely giant contract. Like, I really, really struggle, except for the health, to see why he's not gone for more. And all right, guess what? If he's injured, Shane, and plays 8 games, so what? You got other depth at edge. You can still draft an edge in the first round. It doesn't preclude you from doing anything else. Like, I don't see any reason why this is not an absolute no-brainer of a signing. And I can't really get why he got such a little deal. Because even though he's missed time, he's been productive when he's played. So there you go. If you're wondering what my opinion is, I couldn't be more optimistic about the signing because it just screams no-brainer. The only thing I actually would have liked was maybe he's good enough to have taken a 2-year chance on, maybe give him a little bit more and kept him around for 2 years in case you think he's really good. Because if he does ball out, he's probably not going to stay here. But that's life. The Eagles are in the Super Bowl window. They can get him for a year, and hopefully he can help them win in the playoffs come the end of the season.
Yeah, that's one of the benefits of having a roster that's so good is you can get some of these reclamation projects that are talented players that are looking to come into a good culture, have a good season, maybe go compete for a ring, and then go get a payday somewhere. And these are the types of moves that you want to make. I mean, at worst, he's a depth piece in a position group where you need multiple players that can play the position. So I love the Azeez Ojulari signing as well. That's a slam dunk to me for sure.
Shane, can we just transition? Sorry, I don't know what list you're going to do, but straight into Josh Uche. I know he's probably not someone you were going to talk about second, but
he actually was.
Oh, perfect. I'm just going to say, like, Josh Uche had 11.5 sacks in 2022. I watched his film. I saw barely nothing. Like, I just didn't see it. When I watched Ojulari, I saw it instantly. Compare that to Josh Uche, who had 11.5 sacks. I mean, 11.5 sacks, Shane. Good. There's a very, very good pass rushers in the NFL who don't end up with 11.5 sacks ever. What's Brandon Graham's? What was his 10? Was that his highest? I mean, 11.5 sacks that's what I mean. So it's good. And I watched the film. I just didn't see any explosiveness. I didn't see anything, I'll be honest. Like, a lot of people were very happy because they're like, 11.5 sacks 2 years ago. And I was like, fair enough. I watched their tape back to back, and there's obviously very little tape because he was inactive this year because the Chiefs didn't even think he was worth playing. I watched his last game, week 18, when the Chiefs rested players, and they literally gave him 18 snaps at off-ball linebacker. Now, if I've got a very good edge rusher, I'm not lining him up at off-ball linebacker for 18 snaps. And considering that was basically his gains for a new contract, that's like his moment, just didn't see it. So talking about like depth, about where he is, I think he's clearly ahead of Uche. I think Ojulari could be the second most played edge defender this year behind Nolan Smith. I don't think that's a crazy take if he's above Jalen Hunt next year. But yeah, there we go. In terms of what they did at the edge position, they spent very little money. They got 2 players that can play. I didn't see a lot from Uche, but hey ho, I really like the Ojulari signings. That's where I am personally.
Yeah, I really liked the Josh Uche signing too. 1 year, $1.9 million. I think he's a really talented player, but he has struggled to stay healthy and put it all together, except for 2022, which you mentioned, the 11.5 sacks. But even last season, like, he had like a 17% pass rush win rate with the Patriots before they traded him to the Chiefs. And then with the Chiefs, he like barely played, and he was a healthy scratch for the playoffs. And it was just weird. And I mean, we know that sometimes a guy thrives in one system and not another. And I'm not going to speak too much schematically about what the Patriots were doing defensively last year. That was off my radar. But I know he's a player that I've liked in the past. I haven't watched him a ton like in 2024. But again, it fits that bill for me. If this is a low-cost signing, and I like it because you look at Brandon Graham retiring, you look at Josh Sweat leaving in free agency, and without these 2 signings, you have an edge rusher room that's Nolan Smith, Jalen Hunt, and Bryce Huff, who I would like off the roster. And so I think both of these signings, they fill out that rotation. They make it where you don't have to go at round 1 edge rusher. It leaves you the ability to move on from Bryce Huff if you wanted to. But I very much agree with you that Uche is going to be below Ojulari in the pecking order. I think you'll see Ojulari play significant snaps. I think you'll see Uche play a little bit, maybe. Yeah,
Bryce Huff's done, isn't he? Let's be real.
I hope so.
That feels like they have absolutely no interest. Right, let's run through. We're going to be a little bit quicker, as we mentioned. Shall we get to Adoree Jackson? I'm guessing he's going to be on next one. I'm just guessing your rundown now, Shane.
Well, I put Patrick Johnson next because he's the same position edgewise, but I don't have a lot to say with him.
I have nothing to say.
Yeah, 1 year deal, no announced terms. He's 27 years old. He's been in Philly before. This is a depth guy and a special teamer. He's played over 275 special team snaps all 4 years of his career. I would be surprised if he doesn't make the roster as a special teamer. I don't think you're going to see him much on the defense, though. So I don't have any film or anything on Patrick Johnson other than to say he's a core special teamer.
I literally, full disclosure, couldn't be bothered to watch him when I saw how little he played for the Giants last year. I was like, if you can't get on that Giants roster, if you can't get on the field, I'm not that fussed in watching you for a Super Bowl contender. So we'll see. I actually quite liked him a couple of years ago, but he's just not done anything really. So, yeah, I've got nothing else on him. Sorry, Patrick.
All right. Well, that brings us to Adoree Jackson. I saw a report that it's 1 year, $2.5 million. I did not see confirmation on Spot Track or OTC, so I don't know that that's accurate. But if so, that's a steal because Adoree Jackson's he's a quality cornerback coming off a solid season. And regardless of if that 2.5 million number is accurate, he is going to be cheap because if it was better, his agent would have had it announced. That's generally the rule. And I think he provides competition at the boundary with Kelee Ringo, which I think is important. You don't want to just hand him that job. You want to make him go try to earn it. And Adoree Jackson's a guy that I've liked for a little while too. And it's nice that these are all Giants players. So we've seen him some, even beyond just going to watch him now, but he's just overall a solid player. Like, I think Adoree Jackson is a replacement level starter. He's going to give you a baseline of competency on the outside. He's not going to be Darius Slay, but he's going to push Kelee Ringo. And, maybe he's the starter, maybe he's not. But either way, it gives you some injury depth as well. I loved this signing too. I especially love it if it's 1 year, $2.5 million. But I love it regardless because once you let Slay and Rodgers walk, I really wanted to see them bring someone in. And I mean, is it fair to say that Adoree Jackson is the best defensive back that played for the Giants last year?
Yeah,
I think it is.
Yeah,
and
it
so,
is.
And granted, it's not a high bar, but this isn't like some CB 2 or 3 off of a bad team. This was their best player in their secondary. And so him getting out of there and into the Eagles building is really nice move.
Yep, I sort of last week I was a bit unsure of the Eagles strategy in free agency. I really like it this week because they managed to get, I think Ojulari and Jackson were the two that sealed it. It doesn't preclude you from doing anything once again. If you want to draft the quarterback high, go and draft the quarterback high. If you want to start Keely Ringo, go and start Keely Ringo. If someone gets injured, Adoree Jackson can step in. Like, I watched basically all of his coverage reps for the Giants, and he's Adoree Jackson. Like, he's fine. He's a very, very decent outside cornerback. He doesn't play him a nickel much these days. He's pretty much straight outside only. I imagine he would have no problem learning the Fangio system, especially as he signed so early in free agency. He's got plenty of time to get down to it. I think he's a guy that you probably don't want lining up in man coverage and traveling across the field with top receivers. And guess what? The Eagles aren't going to ask him to do that. They're going to ask him to cover vertically and play in their zone match system. And I think he can absolutely still do that. I've got one clip I posted, Shane, that I really liked about his film. He can still run vertical. So the ability to still run and the ability to track the football was really good. This is a good example because it's him against MVS. MVS was traded, wasn't he, last year? No, actually, he was traded to the Saints, wasn't he? And he could play the ball very well vertically, and he could keep up with MVS down the field. There's another example I posted on my thread of him keeping up with Brandon Cooks, who, again, not lightning quick anymore, but still relatively fast. The only thing I'd say about Adoree Jackson, from what I could see personally, was tackling's a little bit of an issue, but I don't think Darius Slay was particularly great at tackling either, so I don't think they miss out massively there. And I do think he gives quite a lot of cushion, which is possibly what happens when you age naturally. You're more inclined to maybe stand a little bit further back. And that meant sort of shorter routes, comeback routes. You know my feelings on missed tackles in general. Often that's just based around scheme. And some of the reason why he missed tackles was because he was flying down from depth from 15 yards deep to try and hit a guy who's turned around and caught the ball and is now basically got a one-on-one with him. So I see basically very little downside. If I had to gun to my head, I'd probably say he's probably the favourite to start at this point. I'm sure the Eagles will not want him to. I'm sure they will try and get Ringo the job or someone else. I also said last week that the Eagles need a veteran presence because they're too young at the moment in the secondary, and that's what Adoree Jackson provides. I summarised basically my article by basically saying I'd expect him to make the roster. I'm sure the Eagles would like Keely Ringo or a draft pick to beat him out, but if he needs to play next year, I'm confident he will do a decent job. So 1 year, even if it's 2.5, 3, whatever million, what is there not to like once again about Adoree Jackson? It doesn't cost you any real problems with your comp picks, and it gives you a player who can step in next year. So it's another smart signing. I feel the Eagles did a really good job targeting this like second and third wave of free agency. And considering how overpriced everyone is in free agency, they almost went the opposite way and managed to get a couple of guys cheaper than you probably expect them to get on the market.
Yeah, and I think that's the key. Like, you can go make the splash signings in free agency, and a lot of times those don't work out. And that's one of the things that I was mentioning. I think it was on Birds of the Roundtable last week when people were up in arms about the Eagles. It was like, so many of those deals don't work out. I mean, and you look at Bryce Huff from last season, that was a huge splashy move. You should take some shots in free agency, but the best use of free agency isn't to get a superstar. It's to plug holes in your roster with replacement level players that you can play in a pinch, and it makes you not walk into the draft with obvious needs and holes. And so I think the Eagles have done a good job of that. So let's move on to the tight end position, where sadly the Eagles have signed 2 tight ends. And I say sadly because I think it indicates probably a move coming with Goddard down the road. And I'm going to be furious when that happens because it still doesn't make sense to me. But we'll talk about the players anyways. The Eagles gave 1-year deals to 2 different tight ends, tight end Kalen Granson and tight end Harrison Bryant. Now, Harrison
Do we have
Bryant,
the money yet, Shane? Do we have any?
Bryant is 1 year
contract.
Bryant's 1 year, $2 million. Granson, I don't have.
So Bryant's making the roster then, basically.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, depending on how much is guaranteed. Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, so we can talk Bryant first. 1 year, $2 million. He's an athletic tight end with upside. He has been stuck behind guys like David Njoku and Brock Bowers for his entire career. And so if you've never heard of the guy and you're like, he's been in the league for several years, he must not be any good. Maybe he's not, but he's also, he's been behind some really good players. And he is 3 inches taller than Granson is, but he's 11 pounds lighter. So taller, but lighter.
Which is also weird, Shane, because he plays more in line than Granson. Brian's more of an all-around tight end, even though he's smaller. It's a little bit strange.
Yeah, he's a much better blocker. He's the best. He's the best tight end on the team as far as blocking goes. If Goddard is moved, and so I would imagine in a world where Goddard is moved, based on what's on the roster right now, Bryant would be your tight end 1, not Granson or Calcaterra. Do you agree with that?
Yes, I do. I put this in the article, but I love Bryant coming out. And if anyone's ever played fantasy football with me in my dynasty leagues, I basically picked him up in like the 5th round in every single dynasty league ever that I was in. He was just like my guy that I was getting every single time. I like the profile. I watched quite a lot of both of them. Should I talk about them combined? I guess it's probably easier to do it as a little combination, isn't it?
Yeah, sure.
So I think the interesting thing is exactly what you summarized perfectly, is that Granson is bigger, but Granson is much more of a move tight end. He's much more of like a H-back. I saw someone say he could be a fullback, and I sort of see that in his movement skills. He's a little bit more explosive after the catch. He has got like some quite good numbers out there. There's some quite good, like looking at how his like yards after the catch, his air yards and stuff. I think there's some quite good metrics out there. He looks like one of those guys that's like a very versatile chess piece. It's probably never going to get more than like 2 or 3 targets a game, and maybe he deserves a more expansive role. But he was on the Colts, who I don't think had a great deal, and he still didn't really burst through. So he's not going to take Goddard's role, but he can do some nice things particularly well. And there was one clip that I've just put in the chat, Shane, that had me intrigued, shall I say. We know how much the Eagles love these 3 devil stretch plays where Dallas Goedert runs a deep out. And the second I saw this one on film, it made me think, that does make you wonder if the Eagles see he has the ability to do this, because this is a really, really nice a deep out here. And you can see he doesn't look like your traditional big tight end. He's a little bit leaner. He's got a little bit more of a H-back profile. So I think there's a world in which Goddard goes. I hate to break it to people, but rookie tight ends suck and they take ages to develop. Grant Calcaterra could absolutely be a very big part of this offense next year. Granson and Bryant are both better blockers. They both give it much more of a go. They almost combined can sort of do a little bit of Dallas Goedert type stuff, which is what the Eagles might be looking at. So Granson's more of your like shifty yards after the catch, a little bit more like backfield out wide. He's more of like the chess piece type guy who I wouldn't expect to play that much. This is also why, Shane, and not to sound arrogant, but why film is so important, because I read so many things about his PFF like run blocking numbers, and it's because of the type of run blocks he's doing. He is not lining up in line and being a traditional tight end blocker. And the Eagles do ask their tight ends to do that. We saw last year when Goddard went out, it was a bit of a disaster because Grant Calcaterra and whoever else was the second tight end, Uzama at that point, or whoever else it was, couldn't handle run blocking responsibilities. Although Granson grades out well as a run blocker, as I said, if you look at the actual type of run blocking he's doing, I don't see a real physical inline run blocker. I see much more of like a H-back, like split zone, coming across the formation, low cut blocks, that kind of guy. Bryant is a little bit weirder because he's smaller, but he's a lot more physical, even though he's lighter. He is much more of a little bit more of a traditional tight end. I think that he's got quite a lot of talent, and I think he could end up playing quite a lot if the Eagles do move on from Goddard. I've put a little clip in the thread as well showing that Bryant. His receiving talent is pretty average. There's nothing special. He finds holes in zones, but he can do this stuff. And it's him coming across on blocking the edge here. But you can see he's pretty stout. You get a vibe. Like, I don't think the Eagles would have done that with Calcaterra very often last year. He was stuck behind Brock Bowers last year, so didn't really get a chance to shine. But I haven't watched him much of late, but I remember really liking him coming out. I remember a lot of people were quite high on him. I think he went in the 4th round, but a lot of people thought he could have gone higher than that. So if the Eagles do, and I'm with you, it seems like they will move on from Goddard. I don't know. I think Calcaterra is going to have a big role, personally, because I think he moves better. But I think in terms of blocking wise, like Bryant's going to play. I think he will be around next year and will play a significant amount if Dallas Goedert is moved. So I'm not saying that's a particularly good thing, but I do think there's a little bit of untapped potential with Harrison Bryant. So he's a guy that I'll be watching out and looking for reports on a lot, because just bias-wise, I really liked him coming out.
Yeah, there's a big difference between being asked to line up in line and block and being asked to like split zone block on the backside. And Grant Calcaterra can't do either one. So hopefully one of these guys can step in and play the tight end one role if the Eagles end up moving on from Dallas Goedert. So let's keep going. We've got 2 guys left here. Up next, we have long snapper Charlie Hewlett, 1 year, $1.4 million. Jonny, I know you dove into a lot of long snapper things.
Yeah.
What did you see with Charlie Hewlett?
I didn't watch a single play, but he's my least favorite player in all time because he made me lose another vote on my, on our free agency preview. I can't believe my first pick was the long snapper and I didn't even get it right. Yeah. So if you don't know what I'm on about, we didn't watch the show with BLG. We guessed who the Eagles were going to sign back. And I just thought, I'll take the easy win. I'll pick the old long snapper, because who the hell gets rid of a long snapper? Well, it turns out the Eagles did indeed get rid of the long snapper. So I don't like him, basically. That's my take.
BLG and I both hit our first round picks. Jonny missed his.
Yeah, thank you.
And if Britton Covey doesn't come back, Jonny will go 0 for 5 on his picks. So
bad, isn't it? That is rough.
If it makes you feel better,
expert analysis.
If it makes you feel better, it's just because they didn't bring anybody back. It looks like BLG and I are both going to go 1 for 5. So
yeah, the key was you got the first one. That's what I needed. I should have picked Zach Ball at 1, but anyway, so I don't like the long snapper. That's my take.
All right, and then finally, the Eagles bring in running back AJ Dillon, who missed last season with a neck injury. Let's just assume he's healthy, because we can't know that, but let's assume he's healthy. It was some sort of neck injury that he missed all last season left with. But if he's healthy going into 2025, he's basically he's a one-cut downhill runner who finishes with power, essentially. And so he can be your short yardage back. There were times that he was like out snapping. Wasn't Josh Jacobs. That was last year. Aaron Jones. Yeah.
Aaron
before
Jones,
they,
yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
There were times
heads were going mad.
Yeah. Packers fans were getting mad too. But so there's some potential there. And I think importantly, it gives you maybe an option to take a little bit of a load off of Saquon, because I don't think you want Saquon at the same snap count or the same touch counts he had a year ago. But more importantly, if he were to go down for a few games, I think Dillon is a little more of a bell cow back that you could hand the ball to a lot. Whereas maybe that wasn't Kenny Gainwell. We've never seen him in that role. So what were your thoughts on the AJ Dillon signing? Which, by the way, just real quick before this is another one of those signings, right? You can do anything you want. If Will Shipley can win running back 2, you could go draft one on day 2. Like, it doesn't preclude you from doing anything, which is the perfect types of free agency moves.
There's a clear theme, isn't there? Shane, you don't even need to ask me. You know I love this signing. I love physical running backs. Jordan Howard, LeGarrette Blount, Jay Ajayi. I'm a sucker for these guys, man. I'm a sucker for physical. I want running backs who run the ball. None of this like nonsense hybrid athletes who catch and run. Give me old school.
None of this jumping over people backwards. I want you to.
Yeah, but Saquon, how dare you? Saquon is old school in many ways in terms of physical downhill runner. Like, if you ask me now, am I taking AJ Dillon or Will Shipley in my offense? I'm taking AJ Dillon all day long. Get that first down, understand the run game going. I joke, but Dillon does exactly what the Eagles want. I would have drafted someone instead, but guess what? They still can. So if you get him in the building, realize his neck injury isn't right, just draft some. I personally would never sign running backs, except for unless they're elite, like the Barkleys and the Christian McCaffreys. I would just draft them because you get so many good ones coming out in the later rounds every year. But there's nothing really not to like. Like, he can pass protect if you need him to. He can actually catch the ball pretty well for a big guy. My only issue is laterally, he's pretty poor. So in terms of like shotgun runs from the outside, not his game. But inside zone, outside zone, power counter, that kind of thing. Get him under center, which helps. The Eagles don't do a lot of that, but we know they can use the pistol, which will benefit him anyway. I've got one clip of him, but you don't need to see a clip of him, to be fair, because you know what AJ Dillon is. I don't know if you saw the video of him working out that's going around on Twitter. We posted the other day. The guy's legs are humongous. He is built like a brick wall. I have absolutely no reason not to like the signing. He's a professional back. If he's not injured and he's healthy, he'll be fine. He'll be good enough. And the big thing for this year, Shane, was I didn't think you can't be a running the ball team and have Will Shipley as your backup. You just can't, because basically you have to assume your main backup's going to miss a couple of games, and you can't suddenly go, right, we're going to run the ball 10 times this game because Will Shipley's our backup. You need to have a legitimate guy who can carry the load if needed, and that's exactly what AJ Dillon can do. So I still think they might draft someone. I don't think doesn't mean he'll make the roster, but I must admit, I think he's got a pretty good chance, because I think the Eagles need a backup to Saquon just in case early downs. And why the hell would AJ Dillon not be that guy if he's healthy, of course?
All right. So there you have it. That is the Eagles free agent signing since the last time.
It's definitely not, Shane. It's definitely not. You're forgetting a very important quarterback, obviously. How dare you miss how did you even say his name? Dorian Thompson-Robinson?
We talked about him last time. That trade had already happened.
Did we?
Yes.
Did we really?
Yeah.
My sleep score is all over the place at the moment, having a very pregnant wife. I'm up every hour. Dave's not even here. And
yeah, because
I do not.
We both said that he stinks, but at least he'll be entertaining in the preseason.
Man, did we? My brain is not working. Well, seeing as I've got them up, can I just show you like 2 clips that I love? So last year he had no throws over 20 yards, air yards completed. And yes, I watched Dorian Thompson-Robinson film for this show and for Blue and Green. This is what I call the Carson Wentz special. If you're wondering why he didn't have anything above 20 yards completed, it's because his deep balls look like mine, which is inaccurate and loopy. That is rough. But Shane, there's a very important reason why we have to talk about him for another 10 seconds before we end, is because everyone who wants the mobile quarterback, Shane, look at this play.
Hold on. I got to ask a question.
Sorry, yeah, go.
Is he trying to throw the dig route on this play?
He's trying to throw the dagger. Yeah, he's trying to throw the deep dig. 100%.
So he just sailed it by 7 yards.
It's the
I used to get really mad in Madden when that happened, and maybe that is realistic.
Yeah,
but carry on.
Quarterbacks ranked very low. And then, as you rudely interrupted my wonderful train of thought, Shane, the reason why we all need to be excited is because he can run QB counter bash. So for all of you who want the Eagles to have a backup who can just run the ball like 50 times, this is the plan. If Jalen Hurts gets injured next year and you don't want Tanner McKee and you want to basically break the NFL rushing record, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, Saquon Barkley, AJ Dillon, let's go, 60 carries. Why not? He is a terrible thrower of the ball, I'll be honest, but he can run. So for all of you mobile QB guys out there, there you go. Let's end with him. And that's all I've got. Eagles free agency. What a bunch of average players overall, but I actually like what they did, big picture, personally. I think the Adoree Jackson signing and the Ojulari signing sort of pushed me into the category of I can see the plan. I get the idea of what they're trying to do.
Yeah. I'm with you on that. I'm a fan of what they've done in free agency. Of course, I'm saying that on this side of the Dallas Goedert move that appears to be impending, and then I'm not going to like that. But I think they have done what a good team needs to do in free agency, which is restock the cupboard and look to the draft. They don't need to go spend big money in free agency that is going to make things more difficult down the road. I would love to see if they could still unload Bryce Huff, but the Ojulari and Uche and Adoree Jackson signings, I'm very high on those. Not meaning that I think these are going to be like double-digit sack guys and things like that, but I'm just very high on the process, and they're bargain shopping, and you love to see it. So
all I heard there was Shane said double-digit sacks for Josh Uche and Ojulari. You heard it hit first. It's all I heard. I don't know about you, everyone, but I heard double-digit sacks.
I'm fairly certain that you can't even come up with a way to clip that together to make it sound like I said that.
I will try.
All right. Shane out of context is going to be the new trending tag. It's usually Jonny out of context, but that is going to do it for our free agent recap. I'm going to guess that Jonny and I won't have a show next week. Because
it's probably a safe bet.
I think it's pretty safe to assume that baby Saquon Page will be here by then. So, but we will catch you guys when we see you. If you want some more content, we are about to do a mailbag for the Patreon, and we'll be active in Patreon and the Discord and things. So you can come hang out with us there, even though there probably won't be a podcast show next week. We will be back sometime in the near future to break down something related to the Eagles. It's probably about time to start getting into draft stuff.
Draft season, baby. I'm ready.
And we will be ready. So thank you guys for joining us for this episode. We will catch you next time.